Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis here in the Weather Center. We're taking a look at what we're expecting from the snowstorm. I'll be here with a live weather update here just moments away. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's talk about the snowstorm that's moving in. You've been watching our IU celebration coverage. I was watching it along with you. Exciting stuff. They were dealing with temperatures that are 12 degrees out there. Very cold numbers. This is what you want to see, and I'm going to break down everything that you can expect with this system. The timing, wind chills, snow, what we're expecting with winds, how much snow we're seeing, why we're expecting to see this much snow, some complications that may arise with the forecast. Yes, we still have time to make some adjustments here, but I think overall we're locked in. We have not changed this, and there's a lot to this system. So I do want to break it down for you, give you all the information that you want to know, how much is going to fall. If you're trying to figure out plans for the next 24, 48, or even 72 hours, make sure you go along this ride with me because I want to go through some of the details here. Let's start with where we are currently. We're going to start with the current set of the atmosphere. What do things look like right now? And I think we're on pace for what we expected. Temperatures are right around 10 degrees. It was 12 in Bloomington. For all the folks out there celebrating for the IU championship celebration, the feels like temperatures are down below zero, and I will show you those here in just a moment. Keep in mind this year, we do have a bit of an east or a northeast wind, and one of the things that meteorologist Sean Ash has been telling you all morning, if you've been watching us this morning, is that every now and then this east or northeast wind is a dry wind. It can cut into some of the moisture that's trying to move in. We think that that's going to happen, but we also have accounted for that in our forecast. So we know that the snowfall totals initially may not be much snow for today, but by tomorrow, that's not going to be an issue. It'll be a non-issue by the time we get into Sunday morning. Here's a look at temperatures right now across central Indiana. No matter where you are right now, temperatures are either in the single digits or just above the double digits. The 12s that we have on the map, those are the lucky places. So Bloomington, all the folks that were there for the IU championship celebration, they're one of the warmer spots right now in central Indiana. Everyone else is into the single digits. What you see right now with temperatures and the feels like temperatures, and I'm going to show you here in a moment, this will not change very much. We are almost going to stay flatlined. If anything, we may see the temperature nudge up a couple of degrees. We may be as warm as 15 by tomorrow. So every hour it will probably either hold or maybe just nudge up a little bit, but don't expect the temperatures to change very much. That's one of the complicating factors with the snow that's moving in. It's falling into some very cold air. Temperatures right now feel like they're below zero for almost all locations. Well, there's a zero right now for Batesville, but everyone else is below zero. Bloomington, it feels like -1. So all of those folks that were out there for the IU championship celebration, coach, and all the football players, they were out there dealing with some bitterly cold temperatures. So that is not going anywhere. That map you just saw is pretty much going to stay with us for the entirety, the duration of this system. Winter storm warnings are in place, and they include a huge portion of the country. One of the things we're going to be doing here on WTHR Plus is providing frequent updates all throughout this weekend. And one of the reasons why is not just for what's going on locally. We'll be updating you on the roads, the highways, the interstates, what's happening, how much has fallen. But look, this is a story that's going to impact everywhere from New Mexico through the deep south all the way to New England. I don't think in my entire career I've ever seen winter storm warnings include this much expanse of territory. And also keep in mind this, these are ice storm warnings. So once you get into the southern half of this system, there is an ice storm that's going to be happening, especially along the deep south into Dixie here and then all the way over to, say, the Carolinas and northern Georgia. My hometown, my mom is talking about preparing for power outages because we do have a good bit of crippling ice here. Keep in mind, that hits some pretty major hubs, Charlotte, Atlanta, all the way down to Dallas, Houston, Nashville as well. So if you do have plans to travel or know someone that's traveling by air, this ice storm is going to cause some problems in addition to the snowstorm that's accompanying that on the northern side where it's not going to be ice. Icing may come into our forecast. I'm going to get in that here in just a bit. Spending a little bit of time talking about temperatures nationally because it is cold. It is not just here. Misery loves company. And we've got actual air temperatures of 7 below in Minneapolis. And if you've been watching our stream earlier, we had some live coverage out of CARE, our station there in Minneapolis, and the current temperatures are 7 below. It feels like 18 below in Minneapolis. It feels like 4 below here. But even this, Houston is 38 right now. Dallas, it feels like 7 degrees, feels like 9 in Nashville. And you can see this cold air is encompassing a whole lot of the country. Okay, here's where we're sitting right now. National map is going to show you the huge expanse of the system. It is still gearing up. It is still cranking up, but you can certainly see the band of some mixed precipitation, snow on the northern side, and you can even see that we're starting to get some heavier amounts of snow. This is all going to come together. I think the bulk of the system has yet to develop. This is that first wave we were talking about that was going to arrive today. The second wave really kind of now joined together with the first wave, but really that's tonight and into tomorrow. This is where we're expecting the bulk of the snow, not from what moves through today. We will get some accumulating snow today, but by midnight, I think it's only going to be on the order of maybe 1 inch to 3 inches, especially the farther south you go. And a little bit closer, you can already see some snow is falling into parts of Illinois. Now, I know the radar is indicating that snow is falling over a good portion of central Indiana, but a lot of this is not reaching the ground. Remember, I said there's that east wind that's going to eat into some of the snow at the surface. That's exactly what's happening. We've accounted for that in our forecast. I did check some of the observations, and right now Evansville is reporting light snow, and we're starting to see some of the areas of snow move into southern Indiana. What I'm going to be watching very carefully, and I've got a lot more information about this and I'm going to get to, is how far north does this icing move? Because that, while we don't think it's going to move into southern Indiana, into our viewing area, we do think that if that nudges to the north, it could actually increase our snowfall totals. If the whole system jogs a little farther to the north, we could be in jeopardy of being on the higher side of that 8 to 12 that I just showed you. Current temperature sitting at 9 degrees. You can see some of the cold air in place across the country, or across the Midwest, I should say. And here's your headlines for the winter storm. We have stuck to this 8 to 12. We have not changed that. We have been pretty consistent in our forecast. We nudged that up a little bit yesterday morning, but since then we are locked in, and I don't think we need to make any adjustments to that right now. If anything, on the northern side of that map, and I'll get back to it here in just a moment, on the northern side of that map, you're definitely not going to see 8 to 12 if you're in Kokomo, if you're in Lafayette, if you're in Logansport, Peru. You are getting nowhere near this. I think your totals are going to be closer to, say, 5 inches to maybe 7 inches, and it may even go down from there just because the snow may not make it that far to the north. I'll show you some model output here in just a moment. This is going to begin after 2 p.m. So we've got probably within the next hour or so, I think we'll start to see some of the southern areas begin to turn on the snow machine. This is going to last until Sunday night. So because of that, we're expecting a prolonged amount of snow. Bitterly cold temperatures. Right now we're in the single digits to low double digits. We're anywhere from 5 to say 15. That's not changing. This is going to stick around through next week. I'm not just talking about through tonight and tomorrow. I don't see any relief from the cold until February, and I know that sounds daunting, and I know it sounds like I'm being a little facetious when I say that, but really, I think it's going to be that cold through early next month. It may be a week to maybe 2 weeks before we see any improvement in this cold air. It's going to be breezy at least through Tuesday, and that means wind chills are going to be a factor. 15 below is what it's going to feel like to anywhere from, say, 10 above. In that window, I think is where we'll be through the entire forecast, at least through Sunday. Sunday may warm up a little bit, and that may turn down some of the wind chill concerns, but I think the wind chills will come back Monday and Tuesday. This is all weekend long. Here's the other concern. Because it's a little bit on the breezy side, this snow that's coming in is a bit on the powdery side. It's very dry. It's coming in with cold air. There's going to be a good bit of blowing and drifting once this snow is down. So the reason that's a bit of a concern is, look, they can plow all day, but if the wind comes along right after the plow goes through and blows the snow right back onto the roadways, travel concerns will still be a problem. I just want you to keep that in mind. Okay, here's what you want to see, future track. I know. We're going to walk through as much detail as possible. Here's this afternoon. I think everyone will start to fill in with snow from south to north by sometime this afternoon or evening. Obviously, if you're in Kokomo, this is going to take a little bit longer. If you're in Bloomington, snow should begin over the next hour or two, perhaps, depending on where you are. And I will have to check the current observations to see if they're actually reporting snow. I didn't see it on that earlier graphic. But this snow will continue to overspread the entire area. Now, this is going to be very light. This is what the model indicates is falling. Keep in mind, not all of this will make it to the surface, and we're counting on that. We're expecting that a lot of this, though it will show up as falling on both radar and on the models, it may not make it to the surface, and thereby it won't add to our accumulations. But at some point, the atmosphere is going to have enough moisture in it that this won't get eaten into by the drier air. Here's midnight tonight. Snow still continuing. Notice the temperatures have warmed up a bit. Not a lot, but about 5 degrees warmer than they are right now. And this will likely hold all through the entire day. Between 10 and 15 through the entire day on Sunday, maybe nudging up closer to 20 on some of the model runs, but we'll have to see if the temperatures hold out that way. Here's early Sunday morning. If you have plans, maybe you're headed to church Sunday morning, I really want you to consider that this is going to be snowing moderately, perhaps at times, maybe a couple of bursts of heavy snow. We're not necessarily expecting this to be, super thick, heavy snow that comes down in bursts. This is just going to be prolonged, light to moderate snow that lasts all through the day. I do think the bulk of the snowfall accumulation is going to occur between sunrise tomorrow and I'd say about 3 in the afternoon. Once you get past about midday, you'll notice the colors here will ease up once we get into the afternoon, indicating that it's going to be slightly lighter as we get into, although this new model run is actually keeping moderate snow in place into the afternoon. This model does get us into the 20s, and this is a bit of new data that's just come in, so I may be seeing this for the first time along with you. It does have a slightly warmer. The only thing that's really going to change for us, well, there's a couple of things here. One, it indicates to me that maybe that icing situation may nudge a little farther to the north. The whole system may be nudging a little farther to the north, but it also may change the consistency of the snow just a little bit. And so when we're measuring snowfall, there may be some compaction of that snow so that the 8 inches of snow maybe compacts down to about 7 or maybe 6 inches of snow before more falls on top of that. Just something to consider. Again, I don't think it changes our overall forecast. Here's 6 p.m. this evening where we're still seeing snowfall. This is 6 p.m. tomorrow evening where we're still seeing the snow fall. Temperatures are still into the teens, and then we slowly taper this off into the evening. This particular model run has sped up the timing of the exit just a little bit. I still think I'm going to forecast for snow to be falling until at least midnight, and then maybe some scattered snow showers wrapping up as we get into early Monday morning. There also may be a little bit of a wind, a north wind off of the lake that could add a few extra snow showers for our friends, say, in Monticello, Peru, maybe even up into Lafayette and Kokomo. Just consider that. You may have a little bit of extra snow. I don't think it's going to add appreciably to any of your snowfall totals, but something to consider. Light snow expected to eventually become moderate snow. And then once it happens, sometime Saturday, whenever that arrives for your location, remember this is starting in the south, continuing to spread to the north, then it's going to snow for quite a while. We're talking at least 24 hours of snow all the way through Sunday evening and then into Sunday night. I think we'd shut that off about midnight. You may be earlier, you may be later, depending on where you are. I think that's a good place for it, though. Some of the new model trends are maybe backing off of that snow lasting that long, but I still think for now we'll hold the forecast to around midnight. And then once this moves out, the actual air temperatures will likely drop down to near or perhaps even a little bit below zero. So, if any of you have just joined us, I know you want to see this map. We have not changed it. It is the exact same forecast we've been holding to for at least 24, maybe 36 hours or so. 8 to 12 inches of snow is what we're forecasting for Indy. And then farther south from there you go, we could see some locations that pick up as much as a foot or more of snow. Now, farther to the north, there's a couple of areas that I feel like may be in a little bit of jeopardy of needing some adjustment. And those areas are on the extremes. I feel pretty good at this moment. Now ask me again in 6 to 12 hours and I'll see if that changes. I feel pretty good with this 8 to 12. I don't like to put numbers that high on a snowfall total map. I'll just be honest with you. It's difficult for us to get that much snow from one solitary system, but this is a little bit different and I'll show you why here in just a moment. But I still feel pretty comfortable given all the information and all the forecast data that we have that this is where we sit. Now to the south, if there is something that's in jeopardy here, it's that area of ice that I talked about. We could get an area of sleet that starts to pull in from the southern part of the state. That's going to eat into some of these totals, but if that happens, that may push the higher totals a little farther to the north. So it's a bit of an interesting situation. It means areas near Louisville or maybe the southern part of Indiana, their snow turns into sleet and it eliminates some of the accumulation, but it may also bump some of these numbers up a little farther to the north. Having said that, the areas to the north, I also think there may be a sharper cutoff perhaps in what we're indicating. If some of that dry air sticks around and we just get slammed with more and more dry air eating into the snow accumulation, say from Lafayette to Kokomo and points to the north, this 5 to 8 may be a bit ambitious on our part. And again, I always try to give you transparency when I'm putting a forecast together of where I still have some confidence concerns. Feel pretty confident in what's going to be falling in central Indiana. We'll look to the north. Will we see the cutoff be a little bit more dramatic? Again, something I'm watching. So why are the snowfall totals going to be so high with this system? I said I don't like to forecast a single system that's going to report that much snow. I said it on the air yesterday. Are we being too aggressive with this? I don't think so. Here's the reason why. Look, this is a cold, dry snow that's moving in. This snow isn't going to be falling into air temperatures that are 26, 28, 30 degrees. These are going to be falling into either single or double digits, just maybe 10 to 15 degrees. That dry snow means you get a higher ratio. It doesn't take quite as much moisture to get a fluffier amount of snow. So a little bit of moisture that in wetter, heavier snowfall can give you as much as 1 inch or 2 inches of snow. When it's a drier snow, you may be able to get 3 or 4 inches out of that amount of snow, depending on the ratios. And that's something that's really difficult to forecast, but it has a pretty good correlation with temperature, and we know this is going to be falling into some cold snow. This is going to be hours and hours of snowfall, even if it's relatively light, because it's going to be staying with us really for the next 24 to almost 30 hours or so. We think the snowfall totals are going to add up after that. It will compact a little bit, and that may eat into some of the additional totals that we're expecting, but I still feel pretty comfortable with where we are. Here's the other thing. Drifting and blowing. This is going to make this very difficult to measure. It's going to blow around all over the place. Now, the winds aren't going to be terribly gusty, but they are going to be gusty enough that we will see some drifting and blowing. I mentioned the issue about the plow. The plows may come through on some of the streets, especially in some of our more rural areas where you have open fields and the wind can just rip through there. It will blow some of that snow back onto the roadways and travel will still be a concern. The plow may have gone through, but the snow is just going to blow right back onto the road. Just want you to consider that. Even into Monday morning, after the snow has stopped, if the winds pick back up, blowing and drifting may still be a concern. Here's one of our computer models. I'll show it to you. There's a couple of things to keep in mind when you look at these numbers. First of all, this is raw snowfall from the model. You have to take that with a grain of salt. It does account a little bit for the change of the ratios that I talked about, how fluffy or how wet the snow is. It does account for that. What it doesn't account for is a little bit of that compaction and how much the snow depth may change. So when you look at 10 inches of snow that you're seeing here, I actually think as a meteorologist, this puts Indy probably on the lower side of that 8 to 12 because there's going to be a little bit of compaction. The dry air may eat into some of this. We also may see some of the snowfall totals here. I mentioned the compaction a little bit. I think we're going to have to maybe keep on the lower end for Indy, but that's just one particular model output. Given all the other things that I've told you, I still feel very good so far. Again, that may change, but I still feel pretty good with where our snowfall totals are. Let's talk wind chill a little bit. Let's get off of snowfall totals for a moment. Let's talk wind chill because the other component to this storm is the cold. The wind chills may get above 5 to say 10 for a part of the day on Sunday. I do think that's going to be when the temperatures warm up to those maybe teens, upper teens to near 20 degrees. It's still going to be bitterly cold for as far as we can see. Now, this model is a little bit warmer than we're forecasting. You do have to consider that. So I still feel like our wind chills are going to be in the single digits. And then once the snow stops, which according to this model is Sunday at 10 p.m., watch how the temperatures drop, or at least it feels like temperatures drop as the colder air moves in behind this. We're going to have snowpack on the ground. If we get any amount of clearing, the temperatures are just going to be able to free fall, and the feels like temperatures may go back down to 15 to 25 below. And I do think they will for both Monday and into Tuesday. Tuesday. There's not much improvement here through the early part of next week. The story then changes from snowfall to bitterly cold yet again, and how long will it last? And boy, is it going to last a while. The Tuesday temperatures, especially in the morning, I think are going to be our coldest of this entire period. So let's talk about the next few hours. Your forecast here, we do have the clouds, by the way, that have rolled in and been staying with us and thickened up as we've gone through the afternoon. No snow falling here officially from this live picture in Indianapolis, but I do think that that's on the way, and I'd give it another couple of hours, maybe through 4 to 5 o'clock or so for Indy. Farther to the south, your snow is either starting or will be starting within the next hour or two. And then it'll be very light, and it may be a little bit off and on. It's going to look a little piddly at times when it starts. It's a lot of that dry air. Remember, I said this east-northeast wind is going to eat into some of that snow. That's okay. We've accounted for that. Today is not where we get the most snow. It's going to be tomorrow. Let's talk about the ice storm, because this is going to be a huge event for some areas into parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and especially into the Carolinas. Now, the Carolinas, I grew up there. I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar with this type of setup. I have lived through very intense ice storms, several of them, but I told this story to a colleague. I did it off the air, but I'll tell it to you since we're streaming here. One of the most intense weather systems I've ever been in. It's not a hurricane, it's not a tornado, it's not thunderstorms, and I've been through many, especially growing up in the Carolinas, been through many hurricanes. It was not any of those. The scariest, believe it or not, was an ice storm when I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I attended school for meteorology. It was the most intense thing I've ever seen. Transformers exploding, ice bringing down trees all around. It really just rattled the city. And this could be a comparable ice storm in some of the areas in the upstate of South Carolina and into North Carolina, but especially in Louisiana and Arkansas. This could be crippling for some of these locations. It just brings the weight of the ice on the trees and the power lines is going to cause a big concern. Having said all that, this is encompassing also some of the major hubs. You're talking about Charlotte, Atlanta, down to, say, Houston and Dallas and Texas. Nashville is going to be dealing with some ice as well. That's going to cause a big problems for some of those air carriers and some of those larger hubs. Again, if you know someone that's going to be traveling by air today, tomorrow, or even into Monday, I think you really are going to have some problems or some delays at the very least. Definitely make sure that you're keeping aware of that. I put this slide in there, and the reason why is because there's that area of ice, and it is starting to creep to the north. We do expect it to creep as far north as, say, maybe Louisville or maybe Lexington, the south side of Louisville. The question for me is, how far north does it go? Because if it gets far enough north that we start to see areas of our viewing area, parts of our viewing area, begin to switch over to sleet, that's where I'm really a little nervous. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're just too darn cold to worry about that. But there is some warmer air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere that are going to have this snow continue to drift to the north. Highs this week are going to be cold. Look, it's not relenting. We're going to have teens all the way through Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And as I mentioned, as far as we can see, the cold air stays with us. Here's your low temperatures. Through Monday and Tuesday, we're down below 0. 4 and 7 below is what we're expecting for actual air temperature. That's not the wind chill. That's actual air temperature. And we stay with temperatures in the single digits or single digits below 0 all the way through the weekend. And the long-term forecast, this is through February 3rd, keeps the eastern half of the country well below the average. Now, part of that is because much of the country is going to have snowpack on the ground after this big winter storm, but it does look like the long-range forecast just keeps us so much colder. So here's your 7-day forecast. Have alerts for a couple of days here. To be honest, we could probably swing that over into the early part of Tuesday, but this is really going to be a Monday night situation with the coldest of the temperatures. Today, we're expecting snow to arrive, but the heaviest of the snow is going to be on your Sunday. Sunday will snow almost the entire day. Travel is going to be ill-advised. The roads are going to be very slippery. This is a dry snow. The salt is going to be very difficult to work in these types of temperatures. It just doesn't work as well. It's not as efficient at melting snow when the temperatures are down into the single digits or maybe 10 to 15 degrees. If we can get up to around 20, 25 degrees, the salt will really start to be able to work. But until that happens, it's not going to have much of an effect on the roads until the plows come through. Monday is the day where we're going to be cold. I'm hoping we see a little bit of sunshine in parts, but it looks like some of the clouds and some leftover snow showers may stay with us. Definitely expecting clearing skies for Tuesday. It's part of the reason why this temperature is so low, because as we clear the skies out, we've got such a snowpack on the ground. We're going to stay with that. High high temperature on Tuesday, 19. That's about as good as it gets, because after that, we stay in the deep freeze all the way through the rest of the 7-day forecast. It is just going to be a cold forecast. So I'll leave you with this. Again, if you've been joining us and you haven't seen this map yet, I know a lot of you are watching, have not changed this. 8 to 12 is still what we're expecting for Indy. I have a pretty good confidence that that's where we're going to end up being. I think probably at the current timing, I think we're going to be on the low end of this 8 to 12 for Indy. But the farther south you go, if that system nudges a little farther to the north, I mentioned the sleet, we could certainly see it go into that higher side of this range very easily. I'm very confident about where we sit right now. I think the forecast is good. Still have to watch it, though. Again, let me go back to what we were looking at with the snowfall totals. There it is. I'll leave you with this. We will have updates on WTHR Plus all throughout this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon, not just on what's happening locally, but also what we expect to happen nationally, because this will be a national story. We also have a newscast coming up at 6 o'clock. I believe we have an hour-long newscast that's going to be happening this evening. Make sure you join us for that right here on WTHR Plus. Also on WTHR, Channel 13, we're going to be really kind of breaking this down, and by that point, we'll likely to see some snow showers falling at that point. Stay with us, stay safe, stay warm. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with an update here later this afternoon.